Over the lunch hour today, I went to the weekly Indivisible What's the Plan meeting hosted by the founders of Indivisible, Ezra and Leah. And I want to tell you a little bit about how that meeting went. I'm not going to cover all of the questions in the Q&A, but there were some really key things that got covered in the meeting that I think might be educational for you and also an encouragement, and I want to share those. Indivisible is a grassroots pro-democracy organization that was founded during the first Trump term. It's full of little chapters all over the country and some internationally. There are chapters in Canada and Ireland now. Ezra said, this is a wave moment. Right now, we are adding between 75 and 100 new Indivisible groups every single week. More new Indivisible groups formed in March than at any point during the first Trump administration. This is so important because, as Ezra said, there is no solution that anybody has discovered to effectively stop creeping authoritarianism besides the people rising up. So as we are seeing this wave that has not even come close to cresting of people getting involved, new grassroots chapters opening, more and more people invested in saving democracy, we are seeing an effective resistance being formed in real time. And we have the privilege of being part of that. This is a weekly phone call that happens every Thursday at 12 p.m. Pacific. I view it as a chance to kick my feet up and knit for a little bit. I don't get that much knitting done because I take a lot of notes. And listen to what Ezra and Leah have to say. Ezra started off by saying, we have malicious opponents, but let's be real, they're Muppets, they're buffoons. They can't find their ass with both hands. We, the American people, are the opposition and the only effective way to stop creeping authoritarianism. The power must come from the people. The power is from the people, and we must exercise it. One example he gave was the efficacy of these missing member town halls, where folks are holding town halls for their Republican reps who refuse to show up. He said there were more than 200 of these events where Republicans were hiding from their constituents, but folks like Indivisible decided that they were going to have a meeting anyway. Sometimes they're in empty chairs, sometimes someone dresses up in a chicken suit, but it is an opportunity for folks in those districts to voice their concerns, even if their elected official is tucking their tail between their legs and hiding from them. The people deserve a chance to make their concerns known, and Indivisible is providing that platform, that space for folks to speak up. He talked about some of the signs that the movement is building and there is discontent, even in red America. The example was the Pennsylvania state senator that just won a seat in a plus 15 Republican district, that there has not been a Democrat in that seat since 1889, and it was just flipped this week in Trump's America. I mentioned this in a longer video on my backup, but Republicans are so worried about Elise Stefanik's seat in New York that Trump pulled her UN ambassador nomination today. They're really worried that a Democrat was going to win that seat in a plus 9 Republican district. Ezra and Leah then talked about the Hands Off event for April 5th. I have made a video about this, where there are so far more than 800 local events that are scheduled. You can go to handsoff2025.com to learn more, to find an event near you, or to add your own event if you want to host something. I know I am going to my local group's planning meeting tonight for us to prepare for that event on the 5th. One of the cool things about grassroots movements is that they're hyper-local. You can cater the event to the needs of your folks where you live, in your neighborhood, in your city. The event is called Hands Off, and I think they picked a really good name and a really good theme for the event. He said it's going to be a massive national resistance on a level that has not been seen for years. Folks are prepping all over the country. Again, more than 800 scheduled events already planned or in the works. He said the billionaires, the oligarchs, the Trump regime, they're wrecking the things we rely on to lead good and dignified lives here in America. We want them to get their hands off our government, hands off our Social Security, hands off our Medicare, off our Medicaid, off our SNAP benefits, hands off our libraries, hands off our national parks, hands off our schools, hands off our bodies, hands off our veterans benefits, hands off our constitutional rights, off of our due process. We are seeing attacks on the rule of law, people being kidnapped off the streets and, basically disappeared. This regime is trying to create anticipatory obedience. They are trying to get you afraid of martial law, afraid of them whisking you away to El Salvador. They are trying to make you afraid to exercise your constitutional rights and to obey in advance. One of the things Ezra said that is deeply concerning is that wealthy people, wealthy institutions and businesses that should be holding the line, that have the financial resources, the cultural capital, the power to hold the line, they are not doing that right now. They're saying, how do I make myself less noticeable and be later in the line to get attacked, right? We're seeing universities who saw Columbia getting attacked and saying like, okay, let them go first. I'm just going to make myself smaller and hopefully this regime won't notice me. But what they should be doing, rather than saying, how do I push myself farther back in the line, is saying, how do I hold the line? We all must hold the line. And if there is a massive show of popular opposition from regular people, that will make all the difference. The power comes from the people, both with the government and the economy. So these wealthy people, institutions, and businesses, they need to understand where the power lies. They need to see us show up in massive numbers. And that will give them the courage to do the right thing. Because right now, they are bending the knee, they are folding. The power lies with us, so they need to see us resisting. It will give them courage, or it means that we will drag them kicking and screaming up to the line so that they will hold it with us. A couple of things about the April 5th event, and more specifically, kind of the culture and the mindset of Indivisible, which I share 100%. I have made a number of videos about how accelerationists who are encouraging people to riot, to commit vandalism, like that is not the way. And Indivisible is 100% committed to nonviolence, and they believe nonviolence is key. I'm going to read something from Leah here. Part of the way we show who we are is that we make these events joyful, fun, and family friendly. This is not about radicals. This is not about fringe extremists. This is about regular, everyday working class Americans bringing our whole selves and even our whole families, our whole communities to the protest. We are bringing support for each other. We want to show inclusion. We want to make it a safe space. We want it to be collaborative and joyful. We show the world that if the government, our elected officials, won't stand with us, that we, the people, will stand with each other. We know that there are folks on the far left and the far right, both, who are coming to cause trouble at these events. We need to anticipate that that is going to happen, especially the larger these events get and the more press they get. These folks want to cause disturbances, and the threat of those disturbances is meant to cause anticipatory obedience, just like what Trump is doing. His SA, his paramilitary, the Proud Boys, and other groups like that, they also are wanting to bully and intimidate you to get you to back down and not exercise your constitutional rights. They want you to be afraid and to stay home. And accelerationists on the far left, they just want to watch it all burn. And we can't let them use us, the people, as, fodder under the tank treads. So one of the things that they talked about was making sure that we get de-escalation training going. I know our group did some of that last week. Have folks in your local grassroots groups who commit to doing de-escalation training. But also make this a family-friendly event. Make it a party. Make it feel good to stand up for democracy. It's not stressful. We're not having tension with each other. Bring tambourines, bring bubbles, make it joyful. Ezra also talked about having a surprising number of events, more than 800, but also having them in surprising places. Don't drive hours to go to a protest. I know people in my comments keep saying everybody in America needs to come to DC. But Ezra said it's actually more powerful to go to your local event, even if there's 30 or 50 people there. We want people showing up in large numbers in the cities. That's definitely true. But seeing anybody activated in red rural areas makes people say, oh my God, it's happening there. People are pissed off. People are rising up, even there, even in that red county. Tons of small marches in red areas are just as important as massive protests in the city. This regime is escalating their tactics and trying to clamp down because they know that we are establishing a strong resistance. The threats, the defiance of court orders, snatching people off the street, all of that is meant to intimidate you. So we need a mass protest to show that there is popular support for democracy. When they try to threaten us and bully and intimidate us into backing down, we must resist. Paul Weiss, Columbia University, they are doing the absolute wrong things. Every GOP member of Congress doing the absolute wrong thing. But we, the people, are going to show them the right way. April 5th is the first big show that what we are doing is building popular opposition so that we can bring authoritarian creep to a halt. We need a massive show of strength on the 5th. Whatever else you have planned that day, cancel it. Leah and Ezra talked about how this is a really difficult time. Things are really heavy and very, very serious. The reality is we are in the fight of our lives. Leah said we must step forward with courage. When we step forward, others will see us doing that and they will step in behind us. We all have to take a little bit of risk, right? We can spread that risk out if we all step out in courage, if we step out as a unified front. The shock and awe of this regime, the way they're trying to ram everything down our throat, that's because they're weak. They don't really have a mandate and they depend upon the consent of the governed. So we must organize to fracture their coalition and to build ours. This is a scary time because malicious people are trying to destroy our lives. But it's comforting to know that thousands and thousands of people who've never done anything before are standing up. They are activating and organizing, and that we know it is possible to stop this. Republicans in Congress are weak. We can fracture their coalition. Trump is a weak ruler. And the people are strong when we show up together. So get involved with the planning for April 5th, and I look forward to seeing you there.